Welcome to this special edition of Series Talk from the Nurse Championship Series. I'm David Peters at Florida State University, joined as always by my colleague and the executive team chair, Mr. Marty Dempsey from the University of Florida. Hey, Marty.
Hey, how's it going, Dave?
Doing pretty well. Well, and we are here now with breaking, but perhaps not unexpected news. We want to talk about our fall slate of sports and really the year coming forward here after some decisions have been made. And we'll start with flag football. And in flag football for this fall, unfortunately, the word is canceled, and it will not return in the spring, so you can look for flag football for the championship series again in fall of 2021. On the soccer front, however, postponed is the word. We know we cannot have that this fall just because of all the conditions in place, but we're looking at the spring. And Marty, we haven't done all that planning yet. We got some work to do to see if that can happen.
Yeah, the soccer work team, as well as many of our directors out there, they're still very committed. We have over 100 teams that apply each year to be part of the soccer national tournament. It's such a huge part of these students' collegiate experience. So if we can run something in the spring, we will certainly look at all avenues for that. And we'll look to have a decision later this semester once we kind of feel out where the whole world is with our whole current predicament.
Absolutely. So soccer, we're hopeful. We're going to keep our fingers crossed for the spring. You can look for more information in the November to December timeframes. It's going to be a little while, but we want to wait and see what we can do there with all those options. Other sports in the series, well, basketball on the schedule, but you might as well put it with an asterisk and pencil. Like, we're hopeful, but more information on basketball for the springtime will happen in November, December too. So just keep an eye out for another edition of Series Talk with that. And tennis, in our partnership with the USTA, no fall events, but again, we're hopeful for the spring, whether that's the Spring Invitational or the Tennis on Campus Nationals. That's our partnership with the USTA. And again, we expect more information in that November, December timeframe. So some tough news. Some of us kind of expected that as we've seen what's happening on our own campuses and even just what's happening in intramural and sport club programs. But we're trying not to leave everything that we do, and not have anything. And so virtual offerings is something we're certainly looking at here going forward this fall. For some of our stakeholders, like officials and volunteers, that get a lot out of the tournament experience. Marty, what are we looking at there for some virtual opportunities?
Yeah, so while some of this, again, not unexpected, but we really tried to wait as long as we could to get as much information before having to make this, honestly upsetting, difficult decision that we had to make. So now turning it to virtually, and we've been talking about it all summer as a series leadership of what it would look like if we had to shut down in-person events. And you mentioned our stakeholders, so many different volunteers and officials that, they love the championship series. They love being involved. So we've talked at length this summer in other episodes of Series Talk about our basketball officials webinar. We're going to be looking at those possibilities for flag football and soccer. We'll be looking at development for our professional staff members as we just had our Series Academy in July, and what can we do with that in the fall. First and foremost, though, our work teams are going to be connecting with those stakeholders and finding out, what do we need? What do you all need as listeners out there and people that care about the series? How can we help continue to stay relevant in your lives and in your development out there? So we'll have some interesting ideas out there, but our work teams have already started thinking about how they can continue to engage our different groups.
And of course, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of participants, whether that's at the regional tournaments or at our national events. We want to make sure that we have something for them as well. And so I hear some skills challenges, maybe some esports are in the works. Marty?
This has been an area where we can get, pretty creative when it comes to these virtual offerings. So you talked about skills challenges. Maybe there's some strategy clinics. Our work team members, they're going to be doing across the board, across all of our different sports, and trying to think about, okay, how can we keep people engaged? And you mentioned right there with esports, that has been a popular topic. And when is the Nurse Championship Series going to get involved in esports? Well, it's here, folks. The NSC board has approved the offering of almost a replacement offering, if you will, for this fall semester on a trial period on a one-time basis, that we will host an esports national competition. So what that looks like, we're going to be putting together an esports task force that, some of the leaders that have been so important to the development of these esports programs across the country, so many different roundtables out there, we want them involved to make sure that we are hosting a premier experience, but this time in a new way, virtually. So Nurse Championship Series, esports coming at you this fall.
Well, and we've got the esports task force, but we have another task force, which is building off of a good discussion we had with over 60 members in early August, and that's about social justice. And so an opportunity also for members here to contribute to how we can really affect social justice issues within the series, again, with a new task force too.
Sure. Social justice, such a focus point this year, not only within the NERSA Championship Series, but overall within NERSA, and really trying to build on that momentum that we had from our conversation a few weeks ago. As you mentioned, over 60 members had identified a lot of different action items and focus points for them in 4 main areas. And we identified those as policies, staffing, financial barriers, and then stakeholder engagement within the social justice areas. So now, how do we make it more than just a conversation? How do we make those action items come to life and really advance that as part of the series? And we thought the best way to do that, again, was getting folks that were experts within the area, that have had a lot of experience and that have a lot of passion towards the NERSA Championship Series. And that was, again, NSC board just approving that we can have a task force committed to social justice issues specific to the NERSA Championship Series. So we look forward to implementing that over the next month or 2.
Well, and not just new task force and new issues, because there's maybe some old issues that are still there. And I say that from, there's just some behind the scenes work that sometimes gets pushed down a little bit with all the work we do with running tournaments every year. And so our work teams and our volunteers are going to be having plenty of things to do as we look at professional development or eligibility or some of those other backbone issues within the series that need some work. So a lot of focus areas this year. Marty, we talked about them in a previous episode, but just maybe highlight a few that we also know are still on our plate for this year.
Yeah, absolutely. So you're talking about the NERSA Championship Series Hall of Fame, broadening out something that we and recognize the great work that people have done. We've had it for flag football for years. How do we broaden that out to some of the other sports? Really identifying the different roles within the series, so people make sure that people are well educated about what they are applying for, because there's so many different volunteer roles that we have. And then, of course, turning it back to the social justice and esports and really the virtual offerings. Those 2 task force, there's ways to get involved now. So you don't have to be on a NERSA work team currently to be able to serve on that. So in those 2 task force, so for esports and for social justice, we're going to have applications that are going live next week on the NERSA website before August 31st. It'll be open for a short period of time, so please spread that out. If you want to get involved in that, in this really important work, whether it be on esports or social justice, get on the website, put in your application, because we're going to be starting this work off 2nd, 3rd week of September.
So opportunities for members continuing this year with the series, in addition to those that are already appointed and already working with some of our work teams. All right, let's recap the news for today. We talked about it already. Flag football, unfortunately, canceled for this academic year. We'll look for that to return in fall of 2021. Soccer for this fall has been postponed, and we're hopeful that we can figure something out for the springtime. We'll keep an eye on the planning. Basketball still on the schedule with an asterisk because, well, what do we know right now? We'll continue to watch that, and we hope to have more information coming up in November and December. And tennis as well. That'll be our partnership with the USTA. We have a national tournament, some other events in the spring that are still on the schedule. And again, we'll keep you posted as to whether those get finalized or not. Marty, last thoughts for today?
Even though it's really disappointing that obviously we're not going to have in-person events for the fall, it's still a pretty exciting time because there's just so much work that the work teams are ready to put in. I think there's going to be fun, new, engaging ways that might even change the landscape of what we do overall. So with some disappointment comes some opportunity, and I certainly think we see some light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the great work that the Championship Series is going to put forth for the 2020-2021 year.
Well, we look forward to updating all of you on our work come October, November with another edition of Series Talk. And of course, as more announcements are made with our spring offerings, you'll hear them here too. For Marty, I'm Dave. This is Series Talk, and it's a production of NERSA, Leaders in Collegiate Recreation.